Hello. Today we have Claudia with us today. And Claudia is a foster parent and has been fostering over 5 years. And she's been with Cherished Impressions for the last 2.5 years. So, welcome, Claudia.
Thank you very much for having me.
Claudia has had a day, and this is why it's so important that we have this podcast because we will have days like today that she's had with staying at the hospital longer than expected and having doctor's appointments and having to run around town and still make it home to take care of family. So, welcome, Claudia.
Thank you.
Could you tell us a little bit about your fostering journey? How did it start? Why did you start fostering?
Well, initially the fostering started because so our family, my husband and I, we were not able to have biological children.
Okay.
So we decided to do a private adoption. And very selfishly, initially, we decided that once our son was about 2.5, 3 years old, we decided that we really wanted to see how our son Michael would do with a sibling.
Okay.
So it was kind of like, well, let's see if we are able to do it, because we've heard all the horror stories about, you always see all the sad and all the ugly on TV and on the news and all that stuff. So it can be a little scary.
Yes.
But you also hear the stories of the families that are all, well, I couldn't do it because it's just so sad. How do you let him go? So I just wanted, my husband and I, we wanted to know how our son would do and how we would do with providing a home for a child. And that's when we opened our home, and that's when we got our first placement, and that was Nicholas. And he was our first placement, and he stayed with us, and he's still with us to this day. And
Wow.
that just started the whole journey. Now that I look back, I feel that that was a very selfish reason for doing it, but that's what began what we like to call the masculine adventure of a lifetime.
Actually, I'm going to say it wasn't selfish. It was
Mm-mm.
really smart because as parents, we wish we could, give our bio children an opportunity to see how they would act. And we actually do. We send them to daycare.
Yeah,
We have playmates come over, and that's what
right.
we're doing also. But you did the same thing, giving another child an opportunity to receive your love.
Yes.
So we're not going to say that's selfish at all.
No.
I mean, that is selfless because you all took the baby in, you loved on a baby, also giving him an opportunity. And that's very thoughtful just to take into his feelings into account,
Yes.
to trying to see if this is something that at that age he was ready for. So kudos, mom. Kudos.
Thank you.
No, and I
That is
mean, I
awesome.
think how many families are scared to take the plunge, right? I mean, they're scared to make that decision. And so you actually, instead of letting like the fear stop you said, no, we're gonna try. We're gonna go into this and we're actually
Right.
gonna see if it works. And I think it's actually more selfish to stay on the other side of fear when you feel like you've been called to do something. So no, I heard no selfishness in that story at all. Actually, I was
Thank
listening,
you.
I was like, I'm waiting for the selfish part. Where did the selfish part come? Where
Right.
is
I
it
was
coming in?
listening and waiting and waiting.
Well, it's just I say selfish because at the time, the only one we were thinking about was our son. We were just thinking about our son and what we knew what would be best, what we thought would be best for him. And come to find out, this whole journey that we've been on, it actually has been a very good journey for him.
That's awesome.
So in my eyes, it does seem like it was selfish because we were looking out for his well-being, but in the end, it became something that was a great blessing because it has helped him to be less selfish, less, any baby that comes into our home, he is willing to love on them and hold them and
Yay.
be kind to
Yay.
them and enjoy them. So,
And
now it's different, but
right. But you all taught him that and you continue to teach him that.
you
Mhm.
try.
Yes. How many babies have you had in the home since him?
uh, the last time we counted, we had about 15. Uh,
Wow.
because we ever only had one child stay with us with that was long term.
Mhm.
um and it was kind of an on and off situation, because of different circumstances that
Right.
happened, and we actually were supposed to be adopting that child. At the time we lived in Oklahoma, And half our journey was in Oklahoma, half our journey has been here in Texas. Um, so while we lived in Oklahoma, before we moved here, we thought we were going to be able to adopt that child. And as you know, things happen.
Right.
And things happen that
Mm.
were heartbreaking. And so we decided we had to give our baby back to the States so that they could place him with another family. Um, and then we moved here, and I was very adamant that we were not going to foster again. Because that loss was very, very painful.
You know what? Thank you for bringing that up, and let's talk about it, because a lot of people want to foster, but that's where the fear come in. And I've heard many times, well, my heart can't handle that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Or how am I going to get over taking care of a baby and giving a baby back? And what if I feel that the baby is best with me instead of going back or even going to another home? So talk to us a little bit about that initial first time when you had to return a child. And you said how it was heartbreaking to you. Talk to us about that experience.
Well, it's kind of hard to put it into words, but I'm gonna try my best. With my fertility or infertility,
Uh-huh.
um, one thing that I learned through the years was the fact that I had to learn to mourn a loss that never existed.
Wow.
Mm.
I had to learn to mourn that emptiness, that thing that was missing that I was never going to be able to have.
Right.
Yeah.
Now,
Mhm.
um, at that point, it was something that never existed. But now, every time that a baby goes home, just like the very first time, and just like 2 weeks ago that a baby went back home to his mama, um, I feel like once again, I have to be okay with mourning the loss of that child. The difference now is that I am mourning somebody who is still alive, who is going to hopefully grow up with better opportunities, with a better life, with a better chance to be something better than they would have been without us being there. So it's like I have to mourn the loss of somebody who's still alive.
Yeah.
Is the best way that I can describe it. Which makes it hard because, like right now, today is that baby that just left.
Mhm.
Today is his 1 year birthday.
And you had him for how long?
We had him for 7 or 8 months.
Wow. So you had him most of his
Oh yeah,
life. Mm.
we had him 7 months. So we had him for 7 months, and but I am so very proud of his mama. She's done so well. She's worked so hard to do everything that she can, and this is the part that I wish people that say, I don't know, I just couldn't give him back. But the joy in your heart that you feel when you know that you have helped a family stay together, do the right thing. And I'm very pro-life. I
Mhm.
believe that life is sacred from conception to natural death, and there's no in between. So the fact that that mama chose to give that baby life regardless of her situation, it's commendable. The fact that that mama is trying to do everything to make the life of her baby better is commendable. The fact that she was willing
Wow.
to
Wow.
give her baby up and say, I'm going to show up every week to see my son, or if it's a little girl, every week to say, I'm going to see my child, and I know I'm only going to get it to see him for a couple hours, and then I have to say goodbye, but I have to stay strong. The fact that you can be, even if it's just a tiny little bit,
Mhm.
that you can say, I was part of being able to help that family stay together. And the fact that the 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 whole thing isn't over once you give the baby back.
Wow.
I had to talk to the caseworker and make sure that, I was very like, please, please, please tell her, like, this isn't over. Like, if you feel overwhelmed, if you feel frustrated,
That's
if it's
good.
three
That's
o'clock in the
good.
morning and you need somebody to watch your baby, please don't hesitate to call. Like, Don't think that you're alone. Don't think that there's nobody who is willing to help you. Like, we'll take him. Please just bring him back. We'll love on him until you feel you're in that right place again, because I would love to know that you're okay, and that if you're not, I would love to help you get to that place where you need to be better.
Wow.
That's so good.
That's beautiful. And what's so beautiful about it is that you've grown to this point of being able to mourn while they're alive. The term alone, that whole statement, that phrase is so godly. I must say that's the only way I can, the way I can label it is because of his love. You're able to love and give love and continue to do so with more children. I've known many that stopped fostering after that first heartbreak. I know many that continued, and it motivated them to continue to foster because of the heartbreak. I know many that have had a child such as this one that you've raised the majority of the life, and had to leave before the first birthday, went back, celebrated the first birthday, and now is on celebrating the 10th birthday, and they keep in contact with that child. And it's like a godparent to that child, because that's what it is. It's that God sent you in their life, but not only are you blessing the foster child that was once yours, but you're also blessing that family and that mother. And that's commendable.
Okay, so Claudia, I would love to know, when you mentioned before that first loss, when you had to give that child back to their family, that was really hard, and you were ready to just kind of walk away from fostering. And I'd love to know what changed your mind.
So my children were like, come on, mom, let's have another baby in the house. We're not done with having another baby in the house. And my husband was like, we could really have another baby in the house too. And I remember at the time they were having a daddy-daughter dance at our church. And my husband goes, because we have two boys, and my husband goes, I'll never be able to do that if we never get a chance for a little girl. And I'm just like, oh my gosh.
He's putting it on heavy.
You guys are just being like the worst. And, I tried really hard, like Jonah, to run away from God calling me to do this. But I just couldn't. I knew this is what he was calling me to do. And about a week ago, I was thinking about this, and I don't know why I was thinking about it, but I came to the realization that I know that God has called me to do two very difficult things in my life. One of them was to come to terms with my infertility. And the second one was to be okay with whatever happens in fostering. Because those are two of the most painful things I've ever had to do in my life. Because it is painful. You have a lot of joys, you have a lot of laughter, you have a lot of enjoyment, you have a lot of wonderful things, but nothing compares to the pain of both of those things. And I don't know. I'm sure that if I would have had biological children, I probably would not be fostering. And so this is what God wanted for me. Now I can see that. Now I can accept that. But man, if you would have told me that 5 years into my marriage, I would have told you were crazy.
Right.
Because there was no way that trying and trying and trying and trying for God to bless our family with children, that God was not going to answer my prayer. But I'm sure one day I will understand why. And in the meantime, all I can do is just do what he's asking of me and just love on these babies and do my best.
I was just saying,
He did.
he answered the prayer. I mean, it was not how we wanted it answered, right? It was not not originally. And it's just, God's like, okay, I'm going to give you an answer to prayer, but it's just not how you're thinking it's going to look. I know that's not easy. I can't imagine how hard that's been.
Yeah. Well, when my husband, this is a really funny story, but I swear it's the truth, the honest truth. When my husband and I first got married, one of the things that I told him that I really wanted was that I wanted him to one day buy me a Suburban, and then I wanted to fill it up with kids.
Oh my God.
That's how many children I wanted to have. Like, I wanted to be able to fit so many kids in that Suburban that we would be like those families that looks like a clown car that kids just keep coming out of the car and coming out of the car. That's honestly what I really wanted.
Well,
And even though I did not get that blessing with biological children, with the number of children that have come through our home, I think I have more than one Suburban filled with kids.
Yeah, right. You have to watch what you ask God for.
Yes,
He's listening.
you never know
He's
how
listening.
He's going to send you that blessing that you've been
Right. And just speaking of that, I am a firm believer that you don't go through the things you go through just for you. You know, so I'm going to ask you, and I know we've shed some tears today already, and it's one of those touchy subjects, you know, within itself, but a lot of our listeners have dealt with and dealing with infertility. So can you just speak to them on how you, because they, you know, some feel that it may be betrayal, since they can't have their own, or selfish to then go and foster, or then say, I'm thinking about adoption. They have to deal with family saying, well, don't give up. You know, if you start fostering adoption, it just may mean that you're giving up. So talk to us, you know, as a foster and adopted mother at this time, how you came to that decision that it's okay to, you know, foster in it, you know, Lord, okay, I'm not going to have children myself, but it doesn't mean I can't be a mother.
Well, that actually came because I actually was very puzzled about the fact that God created me a woman, and women are supposed to be reproducing and having children. And I have this very strong sense of motherhood within me. And I went to my pastor one day and I asked him, I said, why do I have such a strong need to be a mother and God is denying me this gift? Wow. And he said, actually, he's not denying you that gift. He has given you a strong gift, but you just need to know what to do with it.
Wow, that's good.
Being a mother doesn't just mean being a mother to your biological children. You can be a godmother, you can be an aunt, you can be, you know, your best friend's step-in mother when they can mother their own children. You can be a foster mother, you can be an adoptive mother. You know, he went through all of these different ways of mothering. He goes, you know, how do you think that like nuns in a convent, they don't have children, but they're mothering constantly.
Right.
Because that's part of their, you know, through their prayers and through their actions and their love and this and that. So that was one of the things that was very eye-opening for me, to be able to understand that motherhood doesn't just mean biological children.
Wow. That is good. That is good.
Now, that's not to say that when I first came to the conclusion that I was not going to be able to get pregnant, this was about 3-4 years into our marriage. We were doing fertility treatments, and we had a miscarriage, and it was the only pregnancy we ever had. And we lost our baby at the doctor's office. And when I came out of the bathroom, because it happened in the bathroom at the doctor's office, when I came out of the bathroom, the doctor just looked at me, and very matter of fact, he just said, well, you aborted, it's no big deal, we'll just try again next month. And when he said that to me, that was like the coldest, meanest thing I have ever heard. And that was it. At that point, like, I was done, and I decided that I was angry with God. I was angry with everybody.
Right.
And I went to God and I went to church and I yelled at God and I was very, very angry for a very long time. Um, until one day I remember I was thinking to myself, you know, I'm miserable being angry with God. I'm miserable not going to church. So if I'm gonna be miserable either way, why not just go back to church and see what happens?
Right.
And that's basically what I did. And I actually found a community that was very, very wonderful. This was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. That's where we were living at the time. And this was about 14 years into our marriage. And so we decided to just continue to grow our community, our friends, you know, and all of that. And 16 years into our marriage, we decided that we were just finally going to just try and see if we could adopt and see what happened then. And but I mean, it was all a process, Nikki. I really had to come to the realization that I had to mourn. First, I had to mourn my miscarriage.
Right. Right.
Because when that happened to me, I was in such shock because I had tried to get pregnant for so long that when I finally realized that I was pregnant and I miscarried, I didn't even have time to think about it, to really digest the whole situation of what was going on. So it was very difficult. But you know, I just needed time to be able to understand what all this meant. And it took a long time. And when I say a long time, like it wasn't like, you know, months, it was years for me to be able to heal. And I did try to go to therapy to try and find answers. And therapy, I went to 2 different therapists and I came to the realization that therapy just wasn't for me. I was not going to find the answers that I was looking for in therapy. I just needed to work through what was in my heart, which I did. And that's how I'm able to be here today.
I'm so glad you're here. And I know the babies that have been in your home are so glad that you are here. And Nicholas is just thriving. So we know that, you know, things are going well. And thank you for sharing with us, you know, those times, because it is a time of processing.
Yeah.
And it's not, you know, a time limit on grief. And that's what it is. It's grieving that that miscarriage and the baby there is grieving, not, you know, being able to actually conceive and birth a child yourself. So it's a lot to deal with grieving.
Yeah.
You know, and what I hear consistently in your story is that you knew he was still there the whole time.
Yeah.
You know, he was still there at the time that, you know, you said, okay, Lord, I just need to sit this one out.
Yeah.
When you said, okay, Lord, what is going on? You know, explain this to me. And why do I have this feeling? And there's a lot of people that want to be mothers.
Yeah.
And we've heard today just from your testimony alone, and that's what it is, because you've been through the test and you're going through it and not just stuck in it, not closing the door on it. So we thank you for that. But we've heard that you can still be a mother so many different ways, you know, and that's the glory in what God gives us. He put that into your heart.
Yes.
And you're exercising it out every day.
I tried, but I do want to say, and I think this is very important for people, especially women, to understand this. Just because I have been able to work through, I have been able to be okay with it now, doesn't mean that next month I'm not going to be crying about it again.
Right.
That's good.
You know, grief is a constant. It never goes away. No matter what kind of a loss you're grieving, it never goes away. Even if it's saying goodbye to a baby that's been in your home for a long time. That grief, it's never gonna go away. You're just going to be able to process it differently.
Exactly.
Than you did at the moment. So, you know, I don't want people to think that, you know, I'm making it sound like it's very easy because I'm okay now. It's not like that. Nothing in this world is that simple.
Right.
Yeah.
And and that's why I wanted to put the label of grief on it, because we hear all the time that time, healing comes with time. And it's not that it goes away and that it's healed and it's gone now. It's
Right.
more so that now you're able to process the loss and you're living through it. Let's talk about some of the joys that you received from just the time of having Nicholas. And how old was Nicholas at the time?
When we first received, well, Michael was private adoption. He was 2 hours old when we received Michael.
Wow. So that's just like having no,
Yes.
not just like that's a newborn.
Yes.
That's the newest born.
Actually, his birth mother handed him to me at the hospital.
Oh my
Oh my
goodness.
gosh.
What joy.
Yes, and she was very actually Michael's story is very beautiful. It's I'm gonna make it very quick because
No, share that with us. That's good.
I want to share this with you guys because I want people to understand the huge thing that adoption is, that don't think that just because God doesn't bless you biologically
Mhm.
that you are not being blessed either way. My husband and I applied for we started an adoption process, and we were what they call paper pregnant. I don't know if you've heard that term, but basically
No.
from the moment when you have submitted everything,
Mhm.
your home study
And
and
we know how
everything.
good you are in paperwork. So I know that everything was there on time before time.
So from the moment they approve you to be able to be looked at by parents, pregnant moms, from that moment to the moment when you are chosen, we were paper pregnant for 9 months. Michael's birth mother, she the agency that we were using to adopt, basically the way that they do it is they present the birth mothers with, they say what type of home they want for their baby, and they present them with a stack of books of prospect families that they could choose from. And our life book was all the way at the bottom of the stack that she was given, this woman. She had already found us online, that she saw our picture like really quickly before her phone died. She had a flip cell phone, and she was able to look us up through on her flip phone. I'm telling you, the hand of God was in like this whole thing.
From the beginning.
Yeah. She found us, she gets there, and she's like, yes, I saw this family, this is what I want. And the lady from the agency is like, okay, well, here's the stack of books. And she's like, she goes through and she gets to the bottom and she goes, it's them. And she goes, do you want to look through? No, it's them. And she's like, okay. So we set up the meeting. They call us on Monday to tell us that we had been selected by a birth mom.
And I know you all were shocked that it was so fast, right? You're
tell
like, you
you.
just turned it in.
Yeah. So we get the phone call Monday. She goes to have her very first doctor's appointment for a sonogram on Wednesday, and they tell her that her pregnancy has approximately 6 to 8 weeks left, and that it's a girl. Then we meet her for the first time on Friday, and she gives birth on Sunday. And it's a boy.
I was gonna say it wasn't a girl though.
Yeah.
Okay, I was
And
wrong.
my husband's theory is that our son, like he heard that we wanted him and we wanted him to come home, and he was done being where he was, because his birth mother, she told us, she said, I know that it's my job to protect him. She said, but he is my fourth pregnancy, and I have never felt so detached to a pregnancy like I do with him. I don't feel that maternal instinct with him. She said, but I know that he is meant to be for you guys. And so, here we are. And so when he was born on Sunday, we made it to the hospital, and they'd already given him a bath, and she was holding him on her chest. And when we got there, she just looks at me with this beautiful big smile on her face, and she goes, here you go, mama, here's your son. And she handed him to me.
Oh.
And she asked me, she goes, what are you gonna name him? And I said, Michael. And she made this really weird face, and I said, do you not like it? And she goes, nope, but he's not my child. He's your child. So that's up to you guys.
Well, that was confirmation
Yeah.
quickly. Quick confirmation. But
And that was,
wow.
we brought our baby home and we saw her one more time a week after that. And then we never saw her again. Even though it was supposed to be an open adoption, she just couldn't,
Mhm.
she couldn't do it.
But she did give them up
But
to
she
you
did.
all. What a
She
blessing.
did give us that wonderful, beautiful gift. And, you know, we pray for her, and we never, ever, ever not talk to our boys about
Mhm.
being adopted, about
That's awesome.
the beautiful gift that their birth mothers are.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
the fact that, you know, your birth mom was sick when you were born, and that's why you couldn't stay with her. You know, so I mean, we've worked we've worked very hard for our boys to know that they are loved, even if they couldn't stay with their birth mothers.
That is lovely. That is lovely. Thank you for that. Talk to us a little bit about Nicholas now, because Nicholas came through foster care.
Yes.
How old was he when you got him?
Nicholas was 11 months old.
Mm.
And Nicholas is Native American.
Mhm.
So Michael is mixed, black and white.
Okay.
Nicholas is Native American. So there was a lot of uncertainty about us being allowed to adopt him because of us not being Native American.
Okay.
But we invited the lady from the tribe into our home, and we opened up our home, and we, you know, I wanted to make sure that she understood that in our home, culture is very important to us. You know, and we discussed that with her, and we actually had a good relation. Well, let me rephrase that. I had a good relationship with his birth mother.
Okay.
And my only condition for us to continue to have visits with her so that she could continue to see Nicholas was, no matter what, please, like, don't come to visits under the influence of anything.
Right.
Don't lie to me, and don't disappear.
Mhm.
Because even though Nicholas was very little, like, he knew her.
Mhm.
He really did know her. And we continued to have visits for about 2 years
Okay.
until one Christmas. It was actually around Thanksgiving. Nicholas asked me to go visit her, and she did not answer the phone, did not answer text messages. She disappeared.
Mhm.
And when she came back into the picture, I kept my promise. I'm like, you know, when it comes to my boys,
Mhm.
they come first.
Right.
The same way that if it was a foster child, I don't care.
Mhm.
The children, to us, my husband and I, the children come first, and everybody else's feelings and everybody else's needs come second or third.
Right.
Because first is gonna be the
Mhm.
kids.
Right.
So that was the last time that we had contact, that Nicholas had contact
Okay.
with her.
Okay.
She will still try to reach out at times, and you know, I've told her, when my son is old enough to be able to understand
Mhm.
what happened,
Right.
then he can make the choice if he wants to see you. But until then, I'm still mom, I'm still in charge, and you know.
Right. And that's good. You've given us so much information and have really, really encouraged those that who are thinking about fostering,
I
and
hope they do it.
maybe, yes, and maybe it's for them, maybe it's not, and just brought up a lot of, things that people don't like to share. So how would you advise foster parents to just get ready for the unexpected? The unexpected comes as children not going home and being up for, adoption, to if you decide that it's you to adopt or not. And then some of them, are ending up going back and you have to say goodbye. So if you could give advice to a parent that's actually fostering already, because we talked to those who might be thinking about fostering. Well, what about that parent that's listening right now that have a foster child and they're now deciding if they're going to go back home or not? How can they prepare at this moment to get ready for the unexpected?
just stay prayed up.
Yes, yes,
And don't put your hopes on any one specific thing.
right.
Because if there's one thing that I have learned in this adventure, is that you can have expectations, you can have hope for this one thing, and that's exactly the one thing that's going to change. And because of that, it can be very heartbreaking. And I'm not saying, don't have hope, don't have joy, don't have all the things. In our misery, we can still find joy.
Right.
And we should, because that child is still going to make you laugh. That child is still going to need your laugh, your smile, your love, your kindness, your tenderness, even if your heart is breaking because they're leaving.
Right.
So don't let the sadness take over. Still love that child and still be there for that child, and don't put your hope on one specific thing, because you just never know how things are going to work out and what's going to happen.
And I'm so happy you said that. And the reason why is because they're children and we have to protect them. And so many times, or the saying is around, well, you have to protect your heart when you foster. I'm going to say, let your heart go.
Yeah.
Put your protection with God.
Yep.
And let his love fulfill your heart, because once you allow him his love to come through, and that's why we pray for every placement we have in our homes. We pray about before we place them there. We pray for them while they're placed in that home, and the reason why is because it is unexpected. In foster care, we don't know what's going to happen, and that's why we don't predict it. We don't state it. You don't tell the children, oh, you might go home next week. You don't even tell them, oh, you're going to go home tomorrow. You wait until tomorrow comes and they're on their way. When you get that phone call that I will be there in 30 minutes, then you can start prepping the child, because the reason why is they might not come.
And 30 minutes may not come.
I was just going to say that 30 minutes may not come, but you will have time before that case manager leaves with that child to talk to that child.
Yeah.
We thank you for just sharing your story with us.
Thank you.
Anything that you would like to leave us with that we haven't talked about?
Yes, there is one thing that I want to make sure that I mention, and that is that even if in your heart you feel that you're not ready to open your home to a child just yet, doesn't mean that you can't help.
Right.
I'm sure that even if you don't know, even if you don't know that you know somebody who is fostering or has been affected by foster or adoption. And it is so important for those of us who are living this life to know that we have support.
Right.
And that we have people that are there for us, because it can be a lonely road. So just because you can't open your home doesn't mean that you can't open your heart to me as a foster parent.
Sure.
In the sense that, a meal, a cup of coffee, a chat on Friday night. Let's go have chips and dip somewhere just to get out of the house. Just something that is something as important as a shoulder to cry on, as I need a babysitter. I know there are a lot of requirements for babysitting, but I mean, if you have the time and if you have the ability to, please call an agency called Cherished Impressions and find out what you need to do to babysit.
Yes.
It is so hard when my husband and I want to go on a date and we're trying to find an open family who's willing to take care of our loved ones that we can trust, because even though there are foster babies, there are children. And for me to let go and leave that child with a stranger, it can be very difficult. But I know that if they've come through being already cleared through Cherished Impressions, I know that I can trust this family, and I know that my children are going to be okay. So there is a lot of things that anybody can do to still support this journey, even if they can't open their home because for whatever reason, you know, we never know
Right.
what's in people's hearts and what's in their life, but there is always a little something that you can do for a foster parent or a foster child, no matter what.
That's beautiful.
It's really
And that's so true. Remember, you can always help somehow.
Yes.
You can always help, and help is always needed. So everyone cannot foster, everyone cannot adopt, but everyone can do something.
Yes.
So thank you, Claudia, for coming
Thank you.
again. Thank you, Sam, for joining us.
Thank you. This was so much fun. I've really learned a lot from you, Claudia. I really appreciate your vulnerability.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.